Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to show you how to build a pirate ship, because sometimes ocean surfaces are boring. Might as well spruce it up with a ship or two, which you can make into your home base. Before I begin, remember, please like and subscribe, and without further ado, onto the tutorial. For our blocks, we're going to be using spruce, dark oak, and their stripped variants as logs, then spruce, dark oak, and oak for our planks, polished deep slate as a connector, and then wool for our sails. And you can use a variety of colors, but I recommend not using more than 4, because if you add more than 4, then it becomes just a mess. But there's a lot of combinations. You can do red, white, and blue for America, the UK, France, or the other 40 countries that have only red, white, and blue on their flags. Or you can choose something more unique. Then, find your way to the ocean, and choose a random block in the water. It should be about 3 blocks under. And once you find that, stack up, make sure it's about 3 blocks from the surface, and that's your starting point. Once you have your block placed down, make sure it's something that won't appear often in the build. I'm going to be using red terracotta, but not super often, which makes it a good choice. Then extend it out 4 or 5 blocks. Go up a slab, and we see 5 blocks. And then we want to make it go a little further, but make this only 4. And as you get closer and closer, you want to make the individual things shorter and shorter, until we eventually just convert to stairs outright. Once you do the stairs outright, then you just go up, and once you reach your desired Y level, then you start going flatter again, kind of like this, and then you end it off with the bow of the ship. We have the front of the boat, and we see we have a small bow. We'll worry about the bow later, but this block right here is where we're going to base the entire rim of the ship. But that's for a later part of this video. Our starting block, we want to go a couple of blocks backwards, so about 4. Then we go up a couple, make some upside down stairs here, then more, make sure we have a central spruce plank, and then one final one. Then we can place down a block here, goes side to side, making sure it's level with that block over here. And once you reach your desired length to either side, we top it off with a piece of red terracotta. And this is going to be the rim for the captain's room. Because this is going to be the rim, the wall is going to start 1 block inward, which means you're going to have to make more space to accommodate for it. As you're doing the rim for this place, one minor change you should do to prevent your ship from becoming too flat in the back, I recommend making this little slant right here a little bit longer, which does mean that your ship is going to be a little off-center if you are trying to base this around your red terracotta, but judging by that front, it's already bad enough. Place down extra spruce planks, and change it from 1 thick to 3 thick. This will massively increase how good it looks in the back, especially because if it ends up to be too flat in the back, then the ship just becomes inaccurate. Once we have the fancy framing for this room, we first want to place down some dark oak planks at the top, and you'll have a rim of this. Then, on the inside, oak planks. Below this, a ceiling made out of completely spruce. And then for the walls, we have some sideways stripped spruce logs. For these, you will just want to have them existing, with some dark oak stripped logs in between. Stack some spruce in between them, add windows as necessary, and then, in the middle for the floor, we have some oak planks. Now, we have a nice room here, and we're promptly going to ignore it until we have the rest of the exterior done. Also, one thing you might have noticed is my water being very clear. And this is because of Vanilla Tweaks, a Java version exclusive resource pack, which allows you to make water extremely transparent. Combined with some night vision, it's very easy to see through. I recommend if you're having trouble building this on the underwater portions. Either way, we want this thing to converge inward, judging by this bottom piece here. Every block that goes up, this should go inward. And although that is quite a slope depending on how you built this, still, it's a very easy way to make the ship go inward without it going too extreme on certain parts. And once it gets to stairs, chances are it's going to be completely closed off by then and will turn into the bow of the ship. And you can see it's right about converging, which makes this a non-issue. We have the base of this ship ready, and the final thing we need to do for the hull of the ship is connect some of our support beams here. And once you do that, then we can start placing down some of the spruce planks we need. And this is by far the hardest part of the build, and if you don't get it right the first time, no issues. Just connect these up, and start at the bottom. Make sure that your sides are a little bit higher up than the rest of it, because of course it's going to curve upward and inward like a normal boat. And you're probably also going to remove some of the blocks here, and that's completely fine. But you want to make a first basic model of just trying to connect these to here using rudimentary lines. We now have some rudimentary lines going across, and we see that it's a very simplistic design as of now. And this is the part where I'm going to struggle to explain what's going on, but I'll do my best. Essentially, you want to have some smoothness going on between here going downward in order to give that arcing shape. Although this is nowhere near perfect as of now, you can kind of see what's going on, especially if I place some blocks in the background here. You see how it's smoother, and although that's not the best cut, still, you want to roughly get that look as you go backwards through it. And then, over here, just make it go kind of like this, curve it down, and we have these stairs here in order to make it connect better. So if you're really struggling, you can use a flat wall here. Now, a little bit of smoothing has been done, and you see, even though I've only done this one layer right here, that it's significantly better. I've also just done a little bit of accent work over here. There's nothing I can explicitly explain. We just have a flat back, so that way we can add a little thing that allows it to turn, a little bit of accents, and a place where we can add a window possibly. But still, try smoothing out the sides, and even if stairs are the extent of your abilities, still do stairs. Try to do better, but if you can't, don't put your 110% on it. It's only a singular ship. If it's your only one, then it's okay. And you can always revisit it and try again. Just continue adding your stairs, and also thicken this middle line to 3 blocks if that's how big your bow is. Essentially, make sure the bow is consistent to the bottom part. We now got a completed hull, and it's looking pretty decent. Very simplistic design, but it's definitely much easier to pull off. And one amendment you want to make would be to make sure this part is a little higher up. But otherwise, this part is done, and we can move on to the deck. Continue these oak planks all the way onto the deck, and these will be extended upwards a little to be railings, which means we just fill in this entire thing right here. With the rest of our hull completed, we now want to add a little bit of accent in order to break up the monotony of this. And how we do that, we replace parts of this kind of railing thing right here with some red terracotta. Don't forget to leave some room for windows later on. because if we don't have any windows, then the hole itself is going to be a little bit bland. You might as well just poke some holes, and those should be glass panes with dark oak surrounding them. Anyways, you want to cover these in dark oak, surround those in more stairs, and make them loop around to the bottom, kind of like this. And once they reach the bottom, you're done with that little sequence. Just repeat this 2 or 3 times across it in order to make it a little more varied. Then add yourself some slabs and full blocks here to give it a railing. The hull is now completed, and I did a little bit for the bow, which, yeah, I've been calling it bow this whole time. Just make sure it's a little bit longer and a little bit thicker the more it goes up. Anyways, we now want to put 2 spires somewhere on the build, and these are where we're going to have the sails come from. Once you get to your desired height where you want the sails to hang from, you place down a polished deep slate and go to either side for a couple of blocks. And then you go up, do it again, and then you do 2 more, or 1 depending on the size of your boat. We have 2 towers for our sails. In between them, we will add a little trapdoor area, just some easy up and down, but otherwise, we want to go to the corners of these, go a couple blocks inward, and then you want them to arc outward as if the wind was blowing on them. Not too much though. If they go out too much, it might just look unnatural. But over time, you want it to go a little bit more outward per layer, and it should be symmetrical, which means you need an odd number of blocks for this podium, which means if both sides are not 3, 4, 5, or whatever, that means you should probably realign your deep slate and the other pegs that go across. We have some sails in place, and, well, nothing else to say about them. They're just sails. Either way, I've just used white wool for them, but of course, I recommend using your own unique designs, such as the red, white, and blue of the French flag, the red, white, and blue of the American flag, the red, white, and blue of the British flag. Well, yeah, 43 countries have red, white, blue. But aside from that strange fact, place down some ladders on the tallest one, go right to the top of it, and we can create a crow's nest at the top. Unfortunately, it does not house actual crows. What you do up here is, it's just a lookout station. Add some fences around to give it a little bit of railing, connect it all around, and now you have a crow's nest. Then add a little platform thingy, or a ladder somewhere in order to get up to this little deck here. Add a little podium, maybe a button or 2 on it, and this will be the steering wheel. Although this is literally useless. Look, you can't even see. This would be completely useless, but just make sure your sails are a little bit taller on yours. Now we have some completed sails, and we can see they are, of course, plastered with my logo, because of course that's what I must do. It's my boat. And the sails are much bigger. Make sure that your sails are quite large, because that's what sails are meant to do. They catch the wind. Either way, make sure you have large sails, and then you want to add some spruce fences, or whatever applicable block. Connect them up, kind of like this, and then chain them to the side of the boat. So that way, whoever's down there can steer them. Of course, that doesn't actually work in game, but still, it's the illusion that matters. Copy this a couple of times, and you'll have some steerable sails, although not functional. The ropes have been added, and now we want to go to the interior. We'll focus on the exterior with the cannons and such in just a moment. What we want to do is replace all the ceilings with slabs, because that just gives it more ceiling space. Then we can add some dark oak tables, and we can place lanterns on them. But getting a little ahead of myself right there. Just make sure the ceiling is made out of slabs, We'll focus on the entrance to the lower decks in a moment, but replace every single block that you can without changing the exterior with air, and then slab the ceiling, along with draining any water that might still be in here. I've added a little rudder right here, just a little side detail, but we got the interior ready. We see that the ceilings are slightly taller. I'm still using night vision because, it's very dark, and I've learned that mobile users really don't like darkness. Added this little hatch right here. You can just see what's going on the lower deck. Use this ladder that you get up from the crow's nest. You can also get down to the lower deck. And what you want to do here is flatten out the floor, add yourself some beds, and then on one part, you want to separate it and turn it into a brig, which means placing down some polished andesite, iron bars, and then some beds and other things. Things you only need to survive. Not comfortable, though. I got some barrels, beds, and the brig. We can see very, very nice living standards. $3,000, New York City. Then we have barrels, nothing in them but typical storage. Some barrels here. We got 5 beds around, lanterns, and on the upper floor, just added some cannons because they're very simple. You just need a picture of them to build them. Either way, we're getting very close to completing this, and if we zoom out, you can see it's looking quite good. The things you should do now are 1. Add a table to this room, just a simple table. That's very unfinished right there. Add a map on this wall right here, and then add the rest of the things you'd expect to be on here. Perhaps replacing a barrel pile with melons, barrels on the upper deck, some cannonball barrels, yeah, they use a lot of barrels, and that's blackstone with trapdoors surrounding it. Basalt also works. Either way, we just need the smaller details in before we finally call this done. The finishing details for this office are now done. We got treasure chest in case this thing ever sinks, a very large chair for the captain just to make sure, dominance over every other crewmate, melons, and that's to prevent scurvy, because scurvy is caused by a lack of vitamin C. We have a mapping table over here, as in just a dark oak table, with some cartography in the middle. And overall, we just have a couple of things here and there, mainly just blackstone. And down here, below deck, it's quite dark, but I think that fits the mood. It's below deck, in a ship that probably bears a lot of storm. Overall, it's a very nice boat. And with that, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe, it really helps me out. Enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy it possibly with the best mate you ever have, a parrot, which you should probably add to your boat. Gearsaw out.